Welcome to Let Go, Let EFT, where we are learning and leaning in with you, with your hosts Michelle Puster and Dr. Laura Spiller. EFT is a beautiful model helping people connect with themselves and the people that matter the most, developed by Dr. Sue Johnson.
Good morning.
Good morning. We have an interesting topic today, Dr. Spiller. We're talking about sex and talking about sex with our couples and what happens when sex comes in the room with our couples and how this is hard for us as therapists.
A lot of challenges with coming close to couples and doing EFT when the topic, the content, the pain is around sex.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the reality of how little training we get on anything related to sex in our educations and even in advanced training. It's we can be pretty experienced sex therapists and couples therapists without having a lot of training or hardly any training related to sexual relationships and what couples experiences and how to work with them around that.
That's right. I mean, that's definitely, where I have been in my experience and having to look for and purposefully, gather information, look for trainings and look for resources, and to try to do that learning sort of on my own now, as I'm working with these issues in therapy with couples. So at the end, we'll talk about the resources and how we've gone about trying to learn more and increase our comfort and just be able to be in there in the experience with our couples.
Yes. So I'm curious, what are some of the things that come to mind for you when it comes to self of the therapist, where we can struggle when sex is, like you said, one of the pain points that couples are bringing up or a couple is bringing up in session?
Yes. I was just listening to one of the Foreplay Radio podcasts with, the host of the Foreplay Radio podcast, Lori Watson, who is a certified EFT therapist and sex therapist. And she was being interviewed on that relationship show, another great podcast by two EFT therapists. And she, mentioned just the high rates, of couples struggling with sexual issues. I mean, it's almost like all of them at some point will have sex as a struggle in a relationship. And that means you and I and all the other therapists too. So this can really touch close to home. I'll be completely honest that there's times where I have been wanting to be intimate with my partner. And in the middle of that, I will have thoughts about my couples and their sex lives and the kind of things they're struggling with. I mean, if there's something happening that kind of reminds me of a conversation we've had, suddenly I'm not thinking about sharing pleasure with my partner, but about, did I ask this? Somehow they're like there in my head. And that's not great.
Yes. I have also had intrusive thoughts about more traumatic kind of things that have been disclosed to me. And so that can be really hard and for us in the moment. And then the other thing that comes up for me is how easy is it for us to talk about sex with our partner? And now we're going to help this couple talk about sex and their sexual relationship. And it might be because it often is, it's like you're saying, it's very hard because of the cultural and societal stigmas. It can be very hard for us to talk about sex in our own relationship. So now we've got that in the room and we're trying to help our couple talk about what's happening in their sexual relationship.
Yeah, I think that that seems to be one of the biggest things that hopefully the younger generation maybe is more comfortable with talking about sex in their bodies. But that's something that I think a lot of us don't have that comfort. right? It has been a taboo. We don't have a breadth of experiences of how to talk about it and how to be open and even how to, think about it. I did see some stats somewhere that, even young people though are learning about most of their sex education is coming from pornography. So even though they may be more comfortable, but may not have the best basis of knowledge and
Right.
information.
Pornography and their friends who, yeah. So it's a lot of bad information. And yeah, I mean, for sure, like when I was growing up, my parents didn't talk to me about sex, didn't talk to me about relationships, didn't talk to me about, the wide range of things that I was going to experience. Or so then I'm left to learn through friends and TV shows and movies and carry the stigma of sex is taboo. And so I made it I mean, one of the hardest things for me has been, okay, I need to talk about sex in the session. I need to ask, because one of the things is couples may be experiencing emotional pain around sex, struggling. That might be part part of the cycle. It might be the main part, and they may not tell us, because I think we set the stage for the level of comfort in talking about these things. And if I don't ask, they might not ever share it. Some couples definitely have and do, or one partner does. And other times, I think they might not ever let me know. And it could be I'm doing real great, hopefully cycle work. And then, but something's like, why is it not sort of creating this sense of safety and calming everything down? Well, there could be a huge sexual component. So one of the things that I've kind of said, okay, I'm going to ask about, are you having sex? How is it? Is it a strength? Is it an area of concern in your relationship? And after about a year, of like making this concerted effort, I still found it to be incredibly hard. There's the weight of stigma from our culture is so heavy. It just is there. It's so heavy and hard to work with.
I really like that though, just really making an effort to talk about it from day one, so that you're giving little cues, little drips of, this is important. We can talk about this. This is part of your relationship. It's okay. So hopefully, the more we do that, the more we can create safety to go deeper into those conversations. Because you're right, we're pushing against, all this conditioning and shame, and unprocessed pain, because we're not talking about it. So there's a lot of blocks we have to gently disassemble and push through. And by really consciously bringing it up, I have to admit that one of the experiences that pushed me into trying to learn more about being a better couples therapist on sexual intimacy was I'd gotten through stage 2 with a couple. They were doing great in terms of, the things that we were working on. And I asked about reaches and responses in sexual intimacy, and they were surprised I asked, and they actually said to me, well, I didn't think we were talking about that in this, in this therapy, because we hadn't. Mm-hmm. So that was very much an awakening that told me, like, oh my gosh, they didn't know it was okay to bring it up, because I didn't let them know it was okay. I didn't take the lead in establishing comfort, or at least saying, here is a place we can talk about this.
Yes. And one of the ways that I have kind of decided, okay, if it's still this hard, I need to sort of figure out how I can desensitize myself. So I've thrown myself into the deep end, and I'm now doing this sex therapy training. And it is enormously helpful to constantly be sort of bombarded. That's probably not the right word, but exposed to sexual content, right? Even just and it's professionals talking about it. It's safe, it's educational, it's not shame and not stigmatized, and talking about, orgasms and your clitoris and your penis, and that sex isn't just intercourse. I mean, I'm so trained to think about sex as intercourse, and my supervisor keeps reminding me, do you mean intercourse or do you mean sex play? It's like there's programming in my brain that I'm not even aware of, that I'm bringing into the room, and also that they might be experiencing, right? So it is a lot of work to figure out what's happening inside of us so that we can create a safe place for couples to, probably talk about something that may be hard. They may be experiencing shame. They might feel like they're all alone. They might feel like they're the only ones. They might feel like you can't even talk about this in therapy, not even in couples therapy. Like, it's not right. So, I mean, we have kind of a lot of work to do within ourselves and with our couples to make this safe. And
this is our responsibility to be better couples therapists, right? I don't know that you can certainly, I think, maybe there's something we can talk about on a later show too. When do you refer out to a sex therapist versus trying to do it in session? We might even try to have a guest or, someone talk about that. But we can't even get to that point if we don't know about that part of their relationship. So we need to have, and we want to be able to do that in the most brave and safe way. And I think that really does take learning about the gaps in our knowledge and our unconscious biases, heterosexism, and heteronormativity, and just this idea. I mean, just remembering, I love that you pointed that out, right? That sexuality is a continuum, and being able to help people have more physical, sensual, sexual pleasure in their relationship. So we might talk about, go ahead.
I was just going to say, maybe one place that we can offer our listeners to start, and then maybe we can share some of the things that we are doing to support ourselves in this work and learning. So one of the things that I try to do in the first session with a couple is to ask about, tell me about your intimacy. I'll start with like kind of gradual, say, do you sit next to each other? Do you hold hands? Do you kiss? Do you hug? What does that look like? And can you tell me about your sexual relationship? Is that an area of strength? Is that a strain? What's that experience like for you? Is this cycle that you're describing, does that play into that? And that helps kind of from the first session, let them know, hey, I get that you have a sexual relationship and I'm curious about it, and I want you to feel safe sharing that with me here. And then in the individual sessions, I'll ask about it again. So now their partner's not there and they can maybe feel a little bit more comfortable, disclose a little bit more. So I have at least some idea of what is happening in this really important part of their relationship, and that they know it's green light. We can talk about this here. And also validating, acknowledging, I get that this is hard. Do you feel uncomfortable? How is it for me to ask you about this? I want to let you know it is a safe place for us to talk about sex in here. I want you to feel comfortable sharing if that's, how that part of your relationship's going, how it plays into the other things that we're talking about.
Yeah, that's a great examples of how to weave sexuality into the assessment in both the joint and the individual sessions. We've got to get a picture of their intimate landscape, and your questions are helping us come closer to them and see what they're experiencing and thinking and feeling about sexuality in their relationship, both in that joint session and in the individual sessions. A really basic, simple question that I think I got from the Sex as a Safe Adventure training with Mike and Zoya that I did a couple years ago was, how important is it that we talk about sex in our sessions? And that seems to be a a breaking the ice kind of question to ask them jointly and individually. And that is just, cracking the door open to then all the other questions too that you've talked about. Not that if they say it's not important at all, that I would not, ask. I usually ask a few general questions first, and as I'm getting a picture, try to get a sense of, how important is that? And it's been such an instructive question to ask, because I'll get people who don't say a lot about it, but then say it's extremely important, or people who will say a lot, but say, right now it's not that important. So that it's been instructive and helpful.
Yes. So let's share with the audience some of the things that it sounds like that training that you took, which we have coming to Houston. And are there other trainings or books or podcasts that you like have you found helpful?
I want to just make a quick plug for that Sex is a Safe Adventure training. It was awesome. Such a good learning experience. It's 2 days, and we're having it November 4th and 5th in Houston. And we'll try to put it in the notes and maybe even a link. Along the same lines, I think you were saying earlier, we're just trying to close our knowledge gaps, increase our comfort. So the Foreplay Radio podcast with George Fowler, an EFT trainer, and Lori Watson, a certified EFT and sex therapist, is fantastic. They have so many episodes that weave EFT and attachment and sexuality and sensuality and all of that together. So just a wonderful source of information to help you let it wash over you and just get the terminology and get more comfortable with thinking and talking about it and have language and words. So I think it's a great resource for therapists. Your experience with that and or other things, Michelle?
Good Girls Talk About Sex is a great podcast, and it's just like a frank conversation. There's many different topics that are covered. She interviewed someone different each week. And so it's a nice, it just kind of, again, desensitizes, opens the door to conversation. Of course, Come As You Are is a book by Emily Nagoski, which is a must read. It's a must read for everyone. Barry McCarthy has lots of good books on sexual relationships and helping couples therapists, be able to talk about sex and provide some education and knowledge and some how-tos, some exercises. So there's several of those. Those can be excellent resources.
Yeah, and we'll try to put those names of the Come As You Are book by Emily Nagoski and some of the titles by the McCarthys, in the show notes too. So you've got some links to those. I think those are really useful. Anything that you can do to be wading into that pond or that pool, right, of where this is hard and there's stuff that we have to learn and we want to get more comfortable and know how to reach out to our clients in this way, I think is going to be serve therapists well.
Right. And luckily we're in a time when there are books and podcasts and now EFT trainings around sex. So we kind of are lucky in that sense, because it wasn't always the case that there was the information that we could access and share even with our couples sometimes as is appropriate. So
yeah, I have a lot of couples who really enjoy and listen to the Foreplay Radio podcast regularly, because it is useful for therapists, but actually meant for couples.
Yeah. Yes.
Awesome.
So I think that's all for today. This is a topic that we could go on and on about, and maybe, like you said, we'll come back to it. But hopefully you found something. Maybe in the comments below, you all could share with us your favorite resource that you either use for yourself as a therapist or that you share with your clients around the topic of sex. That would be great to share with the other listeners. And again, request topics. We'd love to hear what you all would like to hear us talk about.
All right.
Thanks. Everyone. Bye-bye.